Tonight, theater chains saying no to costumes at showings of the new Warner Brothers movie Joker, following a warning from the U.S. Army.
May Santiago says we should hold art accountable to our social values.
It's been less than a month since our last mass shooting by a white man,
Is an ideology called incels or incelibates. They're involuntarily celibate men.
Is it just me? Or is it getting crazier out there?
Back in September of 2019, around 2 weeks before Joker's release, the United States military warned that the film might inspire violence among the group that sees it. That group being incels. And if you don't know what an incel is, basically a virgin with rage.
Tell me why I'm stuck as a virgin with rage.
After the military's warning, the Joker movie started receiving lots of backlash. Is this film right for 2019? Is it right to do a glorification story about a mentally ill white man who is so damaged by society that he eventually becomes a killer? In the trailers, it shows the character in a sympathetic and to an extent heroic tone, which some have interpreted to glorifying violence. Joker is a dangerous movie that glorifies violence and could spark copycats, even if it does raise important questions about mental illness and society's downtrodden, I've never heard that word before, say faith-based reviewers who screened the film. I can't believe DC made a movie that glorifies violence. How could you guys do this?
She calls Warner Brothers Studio and filmmaker Todd Phillips' decision to make such a film irresponsible after a slew of mass shootings in the country by men exhibiting behaviors similar to that of the Joker.
This is the first thing I want to talk about. People claimed that the movie glorified violence even though there's nothing in the movie that ever says that Joker's doing the right thing. In fact, given that the Joker is one of the most famous villains of all time, it should be pretty clear that what the Joker does in the movie is probably not the right thing to do. Just because he's the protagonist does not mean that the Joker is the hero of this story. And here's where a lot of the criticism of this movie loses merit, is that a lot of the backlash of this movie was before it actually came out. Remember the first article quote I said at the beginning of this video? The one that infamously posed the question, is it right to release a film that glorifies a killer? Well, what I didn't mention is that that quote is immediately followed by, this film will be released next week.
Nice.
Now, because a lot of the movie's backlash was before the film released, it makes a lot more sense why people would have the misconception that the movie glorifies violence. Because if you're only going by the trailer and also hear talk of the movie being dangerous, it might seem like the Joker is the hero of the story and the movie is promoting his actions if you only look at the trailer. Okay, I've pinpointed exactly what it is that bothers me about a Joker movie. I don't want to watch a movie that shows us the trauma that drove the Joker insane. I don't want to watch a well-intentioned but unstable man get bullied until he turns into a mass murderer. I don't want to watch a man get rejected by women as an excuse for his future of domestic abuse. I don't want to be shown what a poor, unfortunate underdog this man who was sadly forced by circumstances and that nasty Batman to take up a life of crime. This goes on for a while. I don't know if there's ever a good time for a movie that paints mass murder as the logical conclusion of a socially isolated, debatably neurodivergent white man being failed by the system. But I do feel as though this is not it. I don't want to see a movie that idolizes the Joker when there are plenty of easily armed who already think that he has the right idea, without adding a tragic backstory to elicit sympathy. I also don't want the narrative line to be drawn between mental illness and mass murder, as is so often done in modern eras to Batman villains, and as is so common with the Joker in particular. I don't want it to get highlighted and underlined in Sharpie as well. God, I'm sick of the Joker. Yeah, so there's a lot to unpack here. First off, a lot of the stuff that she says that she doesn't want to see doesn't actually end up happening in the movie, so I guess she got what she wanted on that front. The Joker getting rejected by women as an excuse for his future of domestic abuse, that is just a thing that doesn't happen in the movie. Neither is the Joker portrayed as somebody who was sadly forced by circumstances and by Batman to take up a life of crime. She also claims that the movie paints mass murder as a logical conclusion for somebody in Joker's situation to go to, which there are a lot of words you could use to describe Joker's actions, but for me at least logical isn't one that comes to mind. Obviously a lot of these things are proven wrong when you watch the movie, but clearly this person hadn't done so yet given that this movie wouldn't be out for almost 2 months. So I found that Facebook post because a verified account actually posted it out and said, yup, this is why the Joker movie's problematic. She then follows the tweet by saying, it was not that long ago when a socially isolated, disgruntled white man who felt wronged by society quite literally dressed up as the Joker and shot up a movie theater in Colorado. In that tweet, she was referring to the 2012 Aurora, Colorado shooting, which took place at a screening of The Dark Knight Rises. And I will mention more about that tragedy later because it does have a lot to do with the Joker controversy. But her claim about the shooter being dressed up as the Joker is just not true.
Aurora is obviously a horrible situation, but even that is not something you blame on the movie. And quite frankly, if you do your own research about Aurora, that gentleman wasn't even going in as Joker. That was misreported.
And families of the 2012 movie theater shooting in Aurora where the guy like dressed up as Joker, fucking lunatic.
You did?
Yeah, dude.
No, he wasn't actually dressed up as the Joker.
Well,
His hair was dyed red. He was having obviously a mental breakdown, and there's something horrifying about it, but it wasn't related to it outside of the fact that it happened at a movie theater.
But yep, you got me there. The Joker movie is very problematic. And everybody knows if something or someone is called problematic on Twitter, then it's just pure evil, right? I mean, it's not like art is allowed to challenge the audience or anything like that. It's kind of problematic.
I think it's really good when movies make us uncomfortable or challenge us or make us think differently.
I'm gonna have to stop you right there, Joaquin Phoenix. You're being a little bit too problematic for the ladies. Now, if I can tie this all together with everything I've shown you so far in this video, it becomes kind of clear that a lot of this movie's early backlash is rooted in misinformation. Not really deliberate, intentional misinformation, just more of people not really knowing what they're talking about. Like the whole incel aspect of this movie. Before this movie came out, everybody was talking about how dangerous it is that this movie appeals to incels. I'm guessing people just assumed that this movie would lean in heavily on the incel side of things, just because incels were mentioned in the US Army report. And looking at the movie, I kind of see how some people interpret an incel aspect of this movie, but people were really over-exaggerating the incel connection. Incels are known for hating women, hating sexually active people, and feeling entitled to date women that are way out of their leagues.
Nice!
The Joker doesn't really do any of this stuff. He never expresses any negative opinion towards women. The only violence he ever commits against a woman is when he kills his own mother, which I'm just gonna say doesn't count. All he ever does is imagine that he's dating this girl that lives next to him, and then he just ends up going into her house. And the reason behind those scenes isn't to portray Joker as an incel. It's all there to express how lonely the character is, that he's imagining himself dating somebody that he barely even knows. Arthur has a crush on her, and though he does her no harm, there's still something creepily entitled about his attentiveness to her. He could easily be adopted as the patron saint of incels. Ignoring how funny the term patron saint of incels is, I mean, how do you interpret that from the Joker? Again, like the whole argument that this movie might inspire violence, it's just a lot of people that don't know what they're talking about. People have been blaming violence on video games and movies for years.
The video games, the movies, the internet stuff is so violent. It's so incredible. I see it.
Wild. I mean, they're pretty graphic, pretty gory. You know them, Call of Duty. I don't do any of these, but
what Grand Theft Auto?
Yeah, they're simulated violence.
It's a criminal simulator, a murder simulator.
Yeah, Evan.
There is a clear, unequivocal link between violent video games, violent behavior, guns and tobacco and alcohol and pornography, sex, automobiles, firearms, and all those other areas. They wouldn't buckle a baby in that car seat if it wasn't the law. It's not to get done until we take action.
Get what you fucking deserve!
Why don't we just blame all the incels that worship the Joker instead of the actual movie itself? Why do we keep trying to pin stuff on entertainment, especially movies like Joker that never promote violence as a good thing and aren't even exceedingly violent in the first place? I think overall this was just a large overreaction to the Army's warning report, and I think it's good that they were taking precaution. In fact, they didn't even play Joker at the movie theater that the 2012 shooting happened at, and that definitely was the right decision. I have absolutely no problem with that, so I want to make it clear who I'm criticizing here. This video is simply just me countering the notion that Joker 2019 endorses real-world violence. I don't have a problem with the fact that they banned masks from movie theaters or anything like that. I just think it's stupid that so many people try to start a movement against this film. 2 men arrested during Joker screening at AMC Theater in Chicago? Oh no, this movie must have actually caused violence. Well, I take back this whole video. I'm sorry guys. I'll at least read this article, I guess, to wallow in my shame for being so wrong. 2 men were arrested after smoking and causing a disturbance during a screening of the Joker movie on Sunday night? Jeez, I thought it was bad, but oh my god. From this point on the article, I'm gonna have to give a sensitive content warning. Moviegoers told the police that 2 men were smoking and causing a ruckus during the screening. Absolutely horrifying. Anyways, I'm glad this whole entire movement against the Joker movie didn't really work. Everybody ended up seeing this movie. Donald Trump even had a screening of it at the White House. He reportedly enjoyed the film.